The Bureaucrat, a novel by Levi Sweeney, read by the author. Chapter 12, Coeur d'Alene. Thomas D. was in hell. Well, maybe those words are a bit strong. But if there was a hell, well, this place was a pretty decent stand-in. It was the night after the last day of business at the WSRP 2024 State Convention in Spokane. Thomas D. was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. To be specific, he was in the Rising Sun Cigar Lounge at a large casino conveniently located about 10 minutes from his hotel in downtown Spokane. Thomas D. was sitting, absolutely alone, in the non-smoking section. It wasn't loud, but not quiet either. The non-smoking section was in this strange, balcony-like area overlooking the casino floor. Thomas thought it was loud but not quiet because he couldn't register what should have been the intense cacophony of the casino floor, just a matter of yards to his right. His memory of the incident was perfectly clear later on, but he just didn't recall being deafened or overwhelmed by what should have been raucous noise. If there had been music playing, loud or otherwise, he didn't recall any. The state convention was finished. Thomas would be going home the next morning. He'd carpooled to the convention with two PCOs from a neighboring LD, a pair of kindly old men, both Vietnam War veterans, very genial, and who had volunteered to give him a lift across the state. All three were delegates. Thomas sipped his coffee. It was really late, but all he wanted to do right now was sit there, alone, and sip his nice, hot, black coffee. Nothing bad had happened. In purely clinical terms, Thomas's experience at the state convention had been more or less what he had expected. He hadn't expected much of anything, but he wasn't all that surprised at how it had gone. Thomas D. had told Sid Meiber exactly what he thought about him, and nothing bad happened afterward. Nothing. No. Thomas D. felt drained, exhausted, even grieved, sort of, kind of, almost exactly, but not quite, because of the message he had received by text on his phone while waiting for the tattooed waitress with otherwise perfectly white, unblemished skin to serve him black coffee. This was the text he had just read and was processing now. Hi, Thomas. This is Tina. Thanks for calling from your hotel in Spokane early this morning. I'm just reaching out to check on you. I know our conversation was tough on you personally, but I just want to say that I'm absolutely touched, moved even, by your humanity and maturity. I know Jack was important to you. John Russell Glassman was my husband for more than 20 years, and well, he was my buddy too. I'm processing, grieving, and yes, you are more than welcome to attend the memorial service. Right now I'm sitting in the foyer of a Methodist church in town, and I've just got informed by a nice man in a suit, I think he's the pastor, that Jack walked over here and had a long talk with this nice pastor right before he walked a few more blocks to the post office. You know the rest, but, well, I think we can safely say that my buddy made peace with the big guy before he went home. I don't know how you feel about religion, but I think I'll be feeling a lot differently about it as I get closer to the age which old Jack was when he passed. Call me in the morning, anytime, just checking in, wishing you the best. Thomas D. had heard about Jack Glassman's stroke 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Thomas D. convinced Jack's neighbor at Pike Place to give him Jack's cell phone number. Thomas wound up getting in touch with Tina, Jack's wife, and they hit it off. 2 weeks ago, he started having brief, almost whispered phone conversation with Tina. Jack was still in the hospital. 1 week ago, Thomas D. and Tina had a long, drawn-out heart-to-heart. Tina wished she could break the bad news to Thomas in person, but it just wasn't possible. Jack needed her. She was almost 60 miles away from Seattle. This was the only way Tina could tell Thomas. Thomas was alone, at home, in his apartment at the time. The news was devastating. Jack's doctors were grimly certain. Jack Glassman wasn't going to make it, and he didn't have long. Finally, this morning, while putting on his best, most breathable suit to do his remaining duties at the state convention, he got the call from Tina. He'd been waiting for the call. He expected it. He was prepared for it. He knew what she was going to say. Tina called. Jack was gone, in his sleep. Thomas had not wept. He had not cried. He had not shed one tear. He had just thanked Tina quietly, told her he'd be okay. Yes, I'll be just fine, Tina, thanks, you're great. And he straightened his favorite black tie, put on his favorite gray blazer, and walked out of the hotel room and paced swiftly a few blocks away to the convention center, where he would spend the next day until roughly 1 p.m. He'd been in Spokane for 4 days. And now, the Rising Sun Cigar Lounge. Thomas D. sat in the non-smoking section, alone. He was not sad. He was just exhausted. He toyed with the idea of going back into the main lounge area, sitting down at the bar, and indulging in a bourbon or a vodka, maybe even an expensive scotch. He could afford it. No. Jack was a straight edge, a 46 years sober AA devotee. No. That wasn't the right way to mourn. Thomas D. sipped his black coffee. He hadn't wanted to come here. He should have gone out to lunch with his fellow delegates from the LD. He had instead opted to tag along with some of the YRs visit a cigar lounge. He honestly felt grossed out at the implicit notion that his peers honestly thought that such an activity was a mature, grown-up, rebellious way to relax after doing business. These people, these young adults, they're just children, he dimly thought to himself. A bunch of kids pretending to be grown-ups. Yeah. That thought of his just now. Was it uncharitable? Thin-skinned? Petty? Maybe vindictive? Perhaps. That was honestly how he felt right there, right now. He peered out of the corner of his left eye. There was a glass, floor-to-ceiling window wall separating the non-smoking section from the main part of the cigar lounge. He saw Marco Tonlin drinking a weird, brown, foamy liquid out of a large glass. No teeny strawberry smoothie in sight. Mari Rusu wasn't there. She'd skipped the convention. Thomas D. felt strangely melancholy when his thoughts turned to Mari Rusu. Not sad. He was just disappointed, baffled, confused. He thought. No, he brooded. Analysis. Mari, I know you have lots of time on your hands, but if you're going to skip the state convention to do anything, why that? Lots of thoughts. Deep thoughts, bad thoughts, angry thoughts, irritated, illogical thoughts, not based on data, not on analysis, but on sheer, unadulterated jealousy. Mari, you have a great life. I don't totally understand why you volunteer with the party so much, but at least you look happy. And then, Thomas thought, why am I living this kind of life? I want what Mari and Tyler have right now. Really, I do. Yes, Thomas D. was in a bad, not that place, but still pretty bad. I want to talk to Julia now. The cigar smoke could still be detected, even through the glass wall which protected him. He wrinkled his nose slightly. Thomas took another sip of coffee. It was great coffee. Thomas was not existential. He was not quite drained. He was just really, really tired and hungry. Very hungry. And he hated the smell of cigarettes. The scent of tobacco irritated him, and it reminded him of the fact that his paternal grandfather, a heavy smoker, had passed away, aged just 51, from colon cancer, almost a decade before either of his parents had even met each other. Thomas D.'s father had just graduated from high school when James D. Sr. breathed his last. He wondered if his father's father had been anything remotely like Jack Glassman. He sipped his coffee some more. Perhaps 10 or 15 minutes passed. After Thomas spent some time brooding and sipping, a scruffy, clean-shaven young man, aged about 35, got up from one of the tables in the smoking section and meandered over to the non-smoking lounge. He gently opened the glass door and sat down right across from Thomas. Thomas, right? Said the man. Thomas knew the man's name, John Hadley III. John was actually one of Thomas's PCOs, the youngest in the LD after Thomas. He'd even been at the LD caucus in January and had witnessed Thomas's first speech. They didn't know each other very well, but, John showed up to the meetings. He sat in the back and listened usually. Thomas was quiet, but was on the fence about Sid Meiber, but not Trump. He was known to have a job at a non-profit serving local veterans. He had openly, calmly admitted to be a recovering pot addict. He'd been homeless, was putting his life back together. His parents lived in Boston. He had a degree from the University of Washington. He and Thomas were not friends. But Thomas knew he could probably use one of those right now. A friend. Hi, John, said Thomas. Yeah, John, nice to see you. Likewise, said John, calmly, politely. His eyes were mysterious, no glasses. Thomas sometimes wore glasses, but usually contact lenses, like he had now. John studied the coffee. John Hadley III. What's on your mind? I asked Mark over there, why is Thomas sitting by himself? And he just said, why is Thomas sitting by himself? John leaned in slightly. He looked concerned, empathetic. John, if nothing else, had emotional intelligence. A profound amount. You sure you don't want to sit with us in the smoking section? Said John. They serve food here. You might be hungry or something. Been a long day. You look kind of put out as we were leaving the convention center. People are talking a little. Everything okay, Mr. Chair? Thomas smiled, a mysterious, benign smile. Thomas did not trust him. So, yeah, I'll just sit here, said John. Talk a little. Think deep thoughts. Hey, bartender. The bartender with immaculate skin came over. I'll have a coffee too, ma'am, said John. He kept smiling that mysterious smile. The waitress replied in the affirmative and returned with another coffee in a few minutes. So, Thomas, said John, carefully, diplomatically. Thomas D's thoughts. He's been trained in de-escalation techniques. He had lots of training, both bad, mediocre, good, and great, and he's smart enough to see the difference between all of them. And he's good at de-escalation. Very, very, very good. He'd probably be a really great, really talented first responder in a very different life. John Hadley III. How'd you wind up with the party? Tell me a little about yourself, my man. Thomas loosened up a bit. He let his shoulders sag a little. John was not his friend. But maybe it was okay to put down the firewall with a quasi-random, quasi-stranger, at least sometimes. Thomas D. Yeah, well, it all started when I called my grandma on the phone one day. It all came out. Thomas and John talked, asked each other questions, laughed a little, made some jokes, even mulled over Jack's passing a little. John wasn't so bad. Maybe he was even basically good. He wasn't harming anyone, not causing trouble, not at all. They weren't friends, but maybe they at least liked each other mostly. After talking for about 40 minutes, Thomas agreed to go with John to the cool kids' table. Nobody else had heard their conversation. Thomas and John sat at the bar. Thomas ordered a burger and fries. John watched Thomas eat, and then they joined the others, not speaking to each other again that night. Thomas and John both sat at the same table with Marco Tonlin, a very clean-cut YR from Bremerton named Matt, who had slicked-back red hair, and a YR from Spokane named Mary, a young, out-of-shape white woman with glasses and a bad crew cut. They talked. So, said Marco, taking a puff of a big, thick cigar, let's change the subject a bit. Marco smiled and leaned in slightly. What is your most controversial opinion, he said, about politics? Thomas felt like rolling his eyes. Marco was a fun guy and a good man. You're trying to enjoy yourself, Marco. I know that. And you know that what you say for the next hour is probably the beer talking. Marco did know. Matt spoke first. Gosh, that's a big ask, Marco. I don't know, like, maybe democracy is kind of dumb and, like, maybe we should have imperialism instead? Thomas peered over at Matt. No beer, not even a cigar or a cigarette. Just some deep-fried onion rings in a porcelain saucer, mostly eaten. That man is stone-cold sober, thought Thomas. Mary did the upside-down smile reserved for smart people. Well, I don't know about that, she said. Oh, come on, said Matt, leaning forward, smiling winningly, like a swindler. We live in the United States of America. How can you not at least get that? Mary shrugged. Well, I'm just saying, would you want to live in a different country? Any different country at all? Thomas E. did not change his expression. He has a studied look of pure neutrality. John was scrolling on his phone. He thought about Mary. Actual smart person. No analysis likely needed right now. Matt laughed off Mary. Yeah, well, that's a good point. But I hate 2024. 2024 is the worst year of my life. Even worse than 2004, said Mary, deadpanning. That year gave us Bush's second term and the Halle Berry movie about cats. What? Said Matt, laughing a vapid, breathy laugh, rocking back and forth. I want to leave, Thomas thought, but I carpooled here with Matt. They bantered some more. The conversation shifted slightly when Marco went into a long digression where he made the Steelman case for imperialism. Thomas noted the half-empty glass of beer in Marco's hand. Why do you even smoke at all, Marco, thought Thomas. Why are you so mature and well-adjusted, but then you choose to spend your free time with people like Matt Hendricks? Thomas was not doing well. The cigar smoke was putrid and overwhelming. He chose to just deal with it. He knew he should leave, but he was afraid. What about his friends? Yes, Thomas D. wanted to leave. The environment was making him think thoughts which Socrates would not like if he knew them. His mother would have been concerned too. Hey, Thomas, said Marco, putting out his beer. Mr. Demosthenes over there. Got any deep thoughts? Maybe a controversial opinion or two? Got any opinions, pal? Plenty, thought Thomas, just none about politics. But Thomas decided to humor Marco. He'd play along. Maybe start another dialogue? Yeah. Thomas D. cleared his throat. I'd like to ask you all some questions. 3 people at the table, even Mary, all said something like, ooh. They knew Thomas's reputation. The YRs had a signal chat. All right, we are not sharing this with anyone, said Marco, grinning. Matt, Mary, you know about Thomas's famous straw polls and questions? Oh yeah, said Matt, showing some teeth in his grin. There was a video for that mixer in Bellevue just earlier this month. Sure, let's hear some of your questions, Thomas. Somewhere deep inside Thomas, a little man in overalls slipped the switch and pushed some buttons. Thomas prepared to speak, a little louder than usual. There were a lot of people talking and he had no microphone. He was careful to breathe a little more internally, to keep back the cigar smoke. Yeah, that's his picture, Tommy. Gee, you look just like him when he was 20. Well, first of all, it's great to be here, said Thomas. Just to be clear, you all hear me okay? Yep, said Matt. Loud and clear, Thomas and Mary, beaming for the first time. Okay, then, said Thomas. First, Matt Hendricks. It is excellent to be able to spend time with you. You did a valiant effort running for school board. I'm sorry you didn't win the special election, but I enjoyed helping you out with your campaign. Matt nodded, smiling coyly. And Mary, what is your last name? Said Thomas. Chorus guards and Mary. She actually had a very pretty smile and a sweet voice. Very good, said Thomas. I know Marco Tallin very well. We have worked together at many events. He also was kind enough to introduce me to a gentleman from Montana during the WSYR State Convention in mid-January. I am grateful to have been so quickly welcomed to the YRs. They all nodded. They knew Thomas's usual format. All right, so let's do a quick poll, said Thomas. Let's ask each of you a simple question, one at a time. Thomas turned to Matt. Matt, do you personally know anyone who is a libertarian? Matt liked this. It was the most fun he'd had all week. Yeah, quite a few, actually. Thomas nodded. Marco was sitting in between Matt and Mary. 3 M's, thought Thomas. Good omen. Marco Tomlin, he said Thomas. Do you personally know anyone who belongs to the Green Party? I've met a few in my time, yes, said Marco. He was having fun, too. Thomas smiled. Good. He turned to Mary. Mary, you live in Spokane, right? Yes, I do. Do you personally know anyone who is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America? Mary was amused. She rolled her eyes, scrunched up her face, squinted. She really was thinking hard. No, actually, no. She did the upside-down grin again. All right, said Thomas. First, some questions for Matt. First, said Matt, pumping his fist. Matt, do you like most of your libertarian acquaintances? Matt smiled. Yeah, I guess. They're cool people. I like nonconformists, honestly. Sure you do, sure, thought Thomas, but he kept quiet. All right, and Marco, do you like most of your acquaintances who are members of the Green Party? Marco laughed a little. They were okay. A lot of middle-aged white women, but yeah, I guess they weren't so bad. A lot of them were highly educated at good colleges. And Mary? Thomas thought about what to ask Mary. He got it. Mary, do you like the Democratic Socialists of America? Yes or no? Oh, God, no. Those people are assholes. Thomas nodded. Careful, Tommy, he almost heard his father say. He listened, or tried to do so. He turned back to Matt. Matt, can you please define the word nonconformist? Define nonconformist, said Matt, like what the word means? Yes, just one short sentence, please, if you can. Well, gee, Matt's smile disappeared. He stared, glassy-eyed, at his dish. I guess a nonconformist is just somebody who doesn't care about what other people think is normal. Isn't afraid to be different and do his own thing. Not quite, in my humble opinion, but I'll let you have it, thought Thomas. Okay, and Marco, you heard Matt's definition? Yes, said Marco, I heard it, clearly. Just to be absolutely sure, could you repeat it, the general idea? Sure, said Marco, sitting in the plush seat he was in. Yeah, a nonconformist is, well, that just means somebody like Matt said, who isn't afraid to not be normal and to do his own thing and be different. Mary, said Thomas, you heard Matt's definition too? Yes, Mary brightly. A nonconformist is somebody who isn't afraid to be different. All right, said Thomas. He beamed. We've agreed, more or less, on how Matt Hendricks defines the word nonconformist. Raise your hand if you agree that this is what Matt has defined the word as. All 3 raised their hands. All right, said Thomas. To Marco. Marco, do you think that Matt's definition is correct? Marco hadn't expected that, but he heard Thomas clearly. Interesting. Well, what do you think, Thomas? What is a nonconformist, in your opinion? Ah, thought Thomas, an interesting fork in the road. Good. I define a nonconformist as somebody who likes to do things other people don't like, which are not against the law. He made sure to speak loud enough. They all heard him, even over the din. He could barely hear himself think honestly. Get out, Tommy. Please. Mary had heard it very clearly. She was leaning over the table so she could hear Thomas better. Well, what sort of thing would be categorized as doing something society does not like, but which is not illegal? Good, thought Thomas. I now have more interesting questions to ask her, one that will not pit her against Matt. I don't want to do that. An excellent question, said Thomas, smiling. Well, let's stick to pleasant things. What about going on a long business trip and then writing a handwritten letter to your wife instead of emailing or texting her? Tommy, you need to stop this. Please. You think this is a game? Analysis. No marijuana is detected near my purse. Mary had not expected that. What the heck, she said. That's, well, yeah, but why that? Please repeat the question you want me to answer, said Thomas kindly. Mary laughed some more. Why is writing letters instead of emailing or texting? Well, why is that nonconformist? It actually is, whether you use my definition or Matt's definition, said Thomas. Matt got it. He chuckled loud enough for Thomas to hear over the din. Thomas explained more. Society certainly doesn't like snail mail, said Thomas. Going to the post office is almost as inconvenient as going to the DMV, but you can't make sarcastic jokes about the post office because when you go there, it is boring but not frustrating. Society also hates writing letters and writing things down by hand. Hardly any college students these days take notes and lectures with pen and paper, except a few very wise holdouts. Society also frowns on love letters. It almost frowns on love. A love letter today, even if exchanged by two very close intimates, might be seen by some people as, at best, ironic and at worst, creepy. So, yes, going on a long business trip and writing handwritten love letters to one's wife is, without question, per our two definitions, a very nonconformist activity. Thomas beamed. The table had gotten quiet. You need to ask more questions. But just then, he accidentally, but not quite, pushed a whiff of cigar smoke down his windpipe. It threw him off. Too much. Mary, said Thomas. She had been listening appreciatively the whole time. Have you ever done anything which society dislikes which is not illegal? Wrong question. Mary's smile disappeared, and she slowly sat back in her chair. She looked dejected, sad. No, not really, she murmured. I'm kind of boring, honestly. My life, it's okay. But it's not very exciting, I guess. Almost absent-mindedly, she put her left hand on her stomach and massaged it slightly. Only Thomas D seemed to notice that, or so he thought at the time. He couldn't see Mary's eyes. Her glasses were too thick. He couldn't read the room. Thomas was screaming inside, screaming one thing. I need to stop now. Matt, of all people, saved him. For all his faults, he could read the room. Thomas, he said with a bright smile, it's getting a bit late and I'm gonna head out early tomorrow. Want to go back to the hotel? Thomas quickly got up, thanked Matt for his offer, shook hands with everyone at the table, including John Hadley III, who hadn't said anything during the entire exchange, and then quickly walked out to the Rising Sun Cigar Lounge with Matt. He never saw or spoke to Mary Korsgaard ever again. Thomas and Matt drove in Matt's car along a highway, heading back to Spokane. Matt was smiling thinly, mostly oblivious to his friend's discomfort, or at least pretending to be oblivious. Thomas, glassy-eyed, watched the bright lights of other cars, in the dark, pass by them, going the other way, on the highway. Matt turned on NPR on the car's old terrestrial radio. It was an all-night jazz program. Thomas usually really liked jazz. Thomas D. was quietly hating himself. His thoughts. Mary, I'm sorry. I don't know anything about you. Who knows what awful memories that question conjured up? This was a mistake. Thomas D. did not need analysis. His thoughts. That cigar smoke. It was clogging up my faculties, corrupting my judgment. I should not have started the dialogue. I had no data on the audience. And then, where are you, LT? I miss you. The following day was Sunday. Thomas went to early morning confession at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Lourdes in downtown Spokane. He wasn't Catholic, not a baptized one anyway, but the priests there said that was okay. This is The Bureaucrat, a novel by Levi Sweeney. You have been listening to Chapter 12. Thank you.